Yes, people, welcome back to West Ham Official. I hope you are all well. Just a quick video to discuss the aftermath of the refereeing decisions and VAR farce at Bramall Lane yesterday, which ended in it being a Desmond 2-2 draw. I mean, look, there's been so much backlash towards the refereeing decisions. There's been a catalogue of former Premier League referees that have come out in public disagreement with the decisions that were made. You don't see that very often at all. Every pundit that I've read has disagreed with the decisions, and I think that's a damning enough sort of spectacle to sort of judge and agree that the wrong decisions were made, and we were in the end robbed. And I don't like the word robbed, and I don't like bringing VAR into the spotlight that much, but it's hard not to in this situation. We should have had a penalty at the end, there's no doubt about that. There's also question marks about their penalty. Was that really a foul? There's been goalkeepers, ex-players, ex-referees that have said that's a coming together, that's not a penalty foul, and that wasn't a harsh enough sort of challenge from Areola to enforce a penalty from it. And look, you've had Mark Holsey, Dermot Gallagher, Mark Clattenburg and Keith Hackett, all four Premier League ex-referees, come out, as I said, disagreeing with the decisions that have been made. And these referees like to stand up for each other, stick together, but they've came out in articles and in interviews and on Sky Sports and all the rest of it, and they can't lie. I mean, it was blatantly obvious. And once again, we come back to the fundamental issue with this refereeing and VAR debacle in England, whether you believe it's the system or it's the implementation of the system. There is something, as Mark Clattenburg stated, there is something fundamentally wrong with refereeing in the Premier League. It's got to the point where you've got David Moyes, a Premier League manager of 800 games, whatever it is, coming out in a post-match press conference saying we're sort of getting used to the farcical decisions, and shrugging his shoulders and saying, I don't want the fine, I don't want the issues that come along with me speaking my mind about the decisions. That's where we've got to as a league. The best league in the world with some of the worst referees as part of it as well. And I know it's a difficult job. I understand that there's challenges with it. But when you've got 15 different camera angles and countless amounts of time, it seems, at some points to make the decision, they say accuracy is the most important factor of it, and then time comes second. Well, look, we've had decisions that have gone 5 minutes plus this season. If it's not clear and obvious, it's not clear and obvious, and it doesn't get much more clear and obvious than a Sheffield United defender turning his back on the ball, grabbing onto Jared Bowen with two hands and pulling him down, a sort of Roman Reigns spear-like rugby tackle in the box, and the referee gives the decision the other way. And look, he may have had a impaired view of it. He may not have seen the full incident, so you've got to give him the benefit of that. But for VAR not to call him back on it and go, hang on, we've just given a penalty at the other end for quite a soft challenge from Alphonse Areola, and we're not going to look at a blatant sort of rugby tackle style challenge on Jared Bowen 2 minutes later in play terms at the other end. I think the referee bottled it in the grand scheme of things. I was there yesterday. That atmosphere when they scored it sort of lifted the place back up again, and I think he bottled it in the end by not giving the penalty, if I'm being totally honest with you. And I mean, there's loads of farcical decisions with it. You've got to be annoyed with Vladimir Sufa from our point of view for making that challenge in the first place to get his second bookable offence. But the laughable factor of it is that his first yellow card that he received was for complaining about the challenge that the referee gave the yellow card, but then overturned to be a red card. So Vladimir Sufa was proven right, but was given a yellow card for being right because the referee went to the monitor, changed his decision. Listen, it's just complete and utter shambles. We've been robbed 2 points from it because I think we would have converted that penalty, or even their penalty wasn't a penalty to start with, and it would have been 2-1, probably finished like that. It's a talking point that we're discussing week in, week out, and there's one common denominator with it. It's not the teams, it's not fans, it's not pundits, it's the VAR and the refereeing decisions, week in, week out, failing to reach a high enough standard. Just incredibly frustrating with it, and with the public backlash today once again. And the issue that I've got with it is that Michael Salisbury, the referee, failed to give a penalty for Wolves earlier on in the season for a similar incident. Remember, it was on Sky, that Onana incident in the end where he came out and absolutely clattered Craig Dawson, I think it was, coincidentally, or a Wolves player, and the penalty wasn't given. There was more contact in that incident than there was in the Areola incident yesterday. Yet that one was given, and the one at Old Trafford a couple of months ago wasn't given. There is no consistency in this refereeing, and it just keeps getting exposed week in, week out. Now, look, you can go down the corrupt route if you like. I do genuinely think there is an element of that. The Premier League want the big six being the top six because they want the best teams on paper and the biggest names to be in the European competitions. I've got no doubt about that. Villa had some really questionable VAR decisions when they were lurking second or third in the Premier League. They are still there, but they've had some questionable decisions when they've challenged the big boys. We've had it. Leicester have had it when they've been challenging the big boys. It's the common denominator once again is that they want the big six to be in the top six, and when they're not there, there are just these decisions that you think, there's something not quite right about that. That's a conspiracy theory that, to an extent, I agree with, to be honest with you, because I think there is some Big Six bias to the fact is that they don't want teams challenging and breaking into that mould and finishing in the top six if they're one of the other 14 clubs in the league. There isn't an element of that. And it just makes things just incredibly more difficult, even more difficult for teams. And look, everybody's had good VAR decisions go for them and bad VAR decisions go against them. But as Mark Clattenburg, a former Premier League referee, said just today, is that there's a fundamental issue. There's something fundamentally wrong with the refereeing in this league. Is it the scouting process or however we appoint these referees? Is it the system? Is it the laws? Is it the implementation of VAR? Is it VAR as a whole? Is that where the issue is coming from? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I don't know where you solve this issue, but these PGMOL apologies. This, I mean, with Michael Owen on Sky providing the audio for it, is that really doing anything? Has there been any clear changes? If anything, it's got worse this season. VAR has 100% got worse this year than from last year, and I didn't even think that was possible. The amount of decisions and the amount of weeks that VAR has dominated the headlines, not the football. VAR, that's wrong. It's just wrong. And look, we've got to find a sort of a moral sort of place where we're getting decisions right, whether it's the referees themselves, because whether they've just got an inability to make the right calls, whether they've got an inability to get it right. Are they not good enough themselves? Is it the VAR? I don't know. But overall, from yesterday, just to recap, there's been plenty of public backlash after the decisions. I mean, Rio Ferdinand, who hates West Ham, and Joe Cole yesterday said directly after on TNT Sports, 100% a penalty. There were some really dodgy decisions in that game, and coincidentally and consequently, it's cost us 2 points. And especially when you're up there, when you go to the game, you pay so much money to go up and down this country and follow your football team, and you get slapped in the face by dodgy decisions that cost your team's points. It's so frustrating. Put your thoughts into the comment section down below about VAR on a whole. That's my rant over. Thank you very much for watching. My arm is really aching now of holding this camera, so I'm going to go. Come on, you eyes, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.